How's it going, friends? On today's video, we are talking the pros and cons of private schools here in the Twin Cities. First, we'll give a brief overview of private schools, and then we'll talk through the pros and cons of private schools versus traditional public schools. If you've been considering a move here to the Twin Cities or live here now and are just interested in private schools rather than public schools, this video is for you. What's up, y'all? My name is Bradford Schulz, and I work with the hardest working real estate team in the game. We are called To the Twin Cities, and this channel aims to be the single best resource on the internet when it comes to Twin Cities schools. And if that interests you, subscribe to the channel, click the little bell to get notified every time we post videos. And if you want our help buying a home here in the Twin Cities or navigating the school systems, reach out to me at bradford@tothetwincities.com. I'd love to help. All right, let's get into it. The Twin Cities has a variety of private schools that cater to a wide array of educational philosophies, religious affiliations, and academic programs. Here's a quick look at private schools in the Twin Cities, but if you'd like a little bit more in-depth look at those private schools, we have a video on it called Private Schools Explained. I'll put the link in the description below. Be sure to check that out. So some of the different types of private schools in the Twin Cities, and I dive more into this on the other video I mentioned, but we have independent, private, non-sectarian schools. We have religious affiliated schools, we have Montessori schools, Waldorf schools, specialized and charter schools, we have international schools, we have college prep schools, and we even have boarding schools. And some of the main differences of private schools versus public schools are the schools may be governed differently, funding is typically through tuition rather than the taxpayer, curriculum can be more flexible, class sizes and student-teacher ratios can vary, often smaller class sizes, not always, but it's often a focus of private schools. Extracurricular activities can vary, they may have religious affiliations. Traditional public schools do not. Admissions can be limited, whereas public schools are open to all. Private schools can be selective on who they want to attend their school, which can lead to issues on the next point, which is diversity and inclusivity may not be a priority for certain private schools. And lastly, graduation requirements can vary. All right, so with all that said, let's dive in on the pros and cons. You know, the choice between private schools and traditional public schools comes with its own set of pros and cons. It's essential to consider a wide variety of factors when making this decision. First are the pros, and you know what? Let's just say in no particular order. For private schools, smaller class sizes. Private schools often have smaller class sizes. I know I mentioned this in the Private Schools Explained video and the Charter Schools Explained video, as it's also a priority for charter schools, but often private schools have smaller class sizes, which can lead to more personalized attention and a better student-teacher ratio, obviously. All right, next, specialized curriculum. Many private schools offer specialized programs, sometimes with a religious affiliation or the arts or advanced coursework. Next, a strong focus on values. Private schools often have a clear mission and values which can align with the beliefs and philosophies and principles of the students and families. Up next, more extracurricular activities. Private schools may offer a wider range of extracurricular activities, including sports, arts, different clubs, and cultural programs. And next, greater parental involvement. Private schools often encourage and facilitate parental involvement in the educational process. Now, I know traditional schools do too, as my kids go to traditional public schools, and we are very involved and they want us involved, but some private schools have an extra focus on parental involvement. Some additional pros could be like high expectations. Some private schools have very high expectations and are some of the best schools in our state, and so it might be a great choice for somebody looking for a better situation from what they might be residentially assigned to through the traditional public school system. And speaking of that situational aspect, private schools could sort of offer a greener pasture for someone, say, trying to escape a bullying or a toxic situation at the school that they've already been attending, and this sort of allows them an out to a new environment. So in contrast to the pros of private schools, traditional public schools have a number of pros themselves. First being free education. Public schools are funded by the taxpayer, and so in a sense, free for the residents, which can help alleviate the financial burden of education. Number two, diversity. Public schools, generally speaking, have a wider and more diverse student body, which can expose the students to a wide range of cultures and backgrounds. Number three, special education services. Public schools are required to provide special education services. Some private schools may not, and this ensures support for students with diverse learning needs. Another pro, coming at number four of traditional public schools, equal opportunity. Public schools are open to all, regardless of income or background, which promotes a more equal educational opportunity. Public school teachers are typically certified and follow state-mandated curricula, ensuring and providing consistency and quality in the teachers. All right, so let's get into some of the cons of private schools. First, kind of obvious, tuition costs. Private schools can be significantly more expensive than traditional public schools, which would place a financial burden on some families. Another possible con for private schools, limited diversity. Some private schools may lack the diversity that you can find in the public schools, which limits exposure to different backgrounds and cultures. Next up, selective admissions. Private schools may have a competitive admission process, making it challenging to gain admission. I mean, some of them can be really tough. They have interviews and you need references. There can be some tough private schools to get into. And next, I mentioned this as a pro for traditional public schools, but a con for private schools may be less access to special education services. Where traditional public schools are required to offer special education services, some private schools may not have the same level of resources and support for students with special needs. All right, so what are some of the cons of traditional public schools? First, larger class sizes. Public schools often have larger class sizes, which can lead to less personalized attention and also, of course, then larger student-teacher ratios. Another con of traditional public schools would be less flexibility in curriculum. Public schools may have limited flexibility in terms of curriculum and programs that they offer because they do have to follow state and federal guidelines. Whereas one of the pros of private schools is that you can choose a school based on your specific needs. This also is a pro for charter schools as well. Another con for public schools could be varied quality. The quality of public schools is really based on location and funding, and this could lead to disparities in educational outcomes for students. And lastly, bureaucracy. Public schools may be subject to bureaucratic regulations and different administrative processes that can slow down decision making for the schools. Ultimately, deciding between private and public schools, you'll want to consider your family's values, financial situation, educational goals, and the specific offerings and quality of the schools in your area. Visiting schools, talking to teachers and administrators, seeking the opinion of other parents can help you make an informed decision. And if you'd like our help, either buying a home here in the Twin Cities or navigating the school systems, reach out to me directly at Bradford@tothetwincities.com. I'd love to help. I'll see you next time.